Welcome to Al's Outdoors. Sorry about the sunshine. Believe it or not, this is the third time I've filmed this. This camera card got full and stuff like that. I want to talk to you about coyote hunting. Years ago, me and a buddy of mine, when they first started doing all these plant closings in America and stuff, we got laid off. We was laid off for a couple of years. We was having to do side jobs and stuff when we could. We wound up hunting 180 to 190 days a year for a couple of years. I kept journals and everything else. All we did was coyote hunt. We just tore up with it. That's all we wanted to do was coyote hunt night and day. And sometimes we'd go from 9 in the morning till 9 o'clock the next night, no sleep. Sometimes we'd sleep in the truck. Just all kinds of stuff. I hope you can't hear that construction over there. They wasn't doing it a minute ago. But I'm gonna keep going. Anyhow, we learned a whole lot. One thing I learned, in my opinion, my experience, is they always come. And you rarely get to shoot them. And at nighttime, it's a lot more fun because you get to hear them. They're more vocal. And in the daytime, you'll pull the trigger more. That's been my experience. I've killed more in the daytime. We spent a lot of money on it. Thought I was going to get divorced over it, but I was hell-bent on getting coyotes. And we did. And like I said, we learned a lot. And the way I learned that they always come is several times we'd come back to the truck. We hunted a lot of counties, a lot of different counties in a few different states. We'd come back to the truck and there'd be pee on the tire. Got thinking about that, so we did it out to the farm and put a trail camera on it, but we wouldn't hunt the same spot for a month or two after we hunted it. We'd have to come back. And eventually we caught a coyote peeing on a truck tire. Now I can't say that happened every time we saw it, but that coyote, while we was out, we was probably 4 or 5 miles away. We walked a long ways hunting several different spots before we'd come back and move on. And there'd be pee on that daggum tire, so I got thinking about it. I'm convinced they always come. It might be the next day, it might be while you're hunting, it might be an hour after you leave. So I did something. We're allowed to bait coyotes here, and I took a chicken leg, put it on a fishing line, and I hung it about 2.5 feet off the ground, and I waited. And it took that sucker a long time before he come in. I can't remember, a week or so, might have been more. And he took that chicken leg. Something took the chicken leg. And back then the trail cameras wasn't as good as they are now. And I tried to get him on trail camera. They didn't like that camera, I don't think, so I took it back down. And I finally got him where about every 2 or 3 days he'd take that chicken leg. And my lands, I did this for 2 months. And every time I hung the chicken leg, I'd drive up in the holler. It's in the middle of frickin' nowhere. I'd hang that chicken leg and I'd hit a coyote howl. One long coyote howl. I'd get in the truck and just slam the door and drive off. Well, after I got him coming in fairly consistently, I had a buddy of mine drive me up the holler and stay in the truck. I got out, hung a chicken leg, hit that howler one time. He slammed the truck door and drove off and left me. 15-20 minutes later, here come this young coyote right down my four-wheeler trail, and I shot him. I started hanging chicken legs and they quit eating it. I kept checking on it, and finally something ate it. I hung it up. I forget, a couple days later or something ate it. I had him drive me up in there again, drop me off, slam the door, I hit the howler and just stayed. It was about 2.5 hours. I shot another one. I tried it about 4 times after that and it never worked again. And it was interesting. And something else I learned from that. We'd start coyote hunting, and a lot of times we'd, especially nighttime, we'd hit a howler and a coyote would howl. And they wouldn't come. 3 or 4 of them would howl. And they wouldn't come. So I just said to heck with it, and I got up and walked away. And here's what I mean. We was set up. That black spot would be a pond. This will be the wind direction. This is where we wanted that coyote to go. and coyotes was over here. They want to be downwind. This would be the wind. When they hit that opening, we could shoot them. But they stayed there and they howled at us like 3 different times, 15 minutes, 20 minutes in between. So I got up, and instead of walking down here where they could smell me, I walked back this way. I suppose you could go either way. I went about 300 yards away from him, and I howled. Now when I done that, they made a beeline right in front of him in that opening, and he killed one and he missed another one. So we started moving on coyotes that would stay and howl, and it worked pretty good several times. Now this don't work every time. Coyotes are hard to kill. You'll, more often than not, you'll not even see one. About every 10-15 sets we'd call in a coyote sometimes, and it took a lot of work. And something else I learned, he got to where he couldn't go with me. He got a job. I still couldn't get a job. I tried. Let me show you what I made. I've got an e-collar, a couple $100 back when I bought it, and I've got my mouth calls. What I would do is I'd set this about 300 yards away from me, but not where I wanted the coyotes to come. I'd turn it on, and I'd hit my howler. They howled back at me and they wanted to stay on that bank. I'd shut up for a little bit. Then I'd hit it on this. Now see what's happening, because we watched this. There's always a lot of young coyotes, and those young coyotes, is what they'll do, they're afraid to come into another coyote. They'll get in a fight. They don't want to fight. They want food and they want sex. That's all they ever want, is food and sex. Got squirrels dropping hickory nuts on me, and the neighbors showing up and everything else. But they wait. They wait till that coyote leaves, then they show up. Well, when that coyote moves 300-400 yards away, they show up where he howled the first time, so they can smell, pee, mark the territory. That worked for us a lot, and I sure hope it works for y'all. And I want to show you one more thing before we get off of here. If you don't have a mouth call, you don't want to buy a mouth call, there's 2 howlers. I made both of them. This one's got a wooden tone board that I made. I got a jig that cuts them out. I've made them for years. What you do is you go to the store, like a hardware store, get you some 1/2-inch PVC pipe. It's white, and you get you the gray 1/4-inch plastic pipe. You glue the gray inside of the white. Then you cut you a piece, about 2.5 inches long, and you lay that on a belt sander and you curve it. You see that curve on there? You curve it, and that 1/4-inch hole will be right there. But then you got to wedge it with something, and the wedge has to be solid. That right there, you can buy that at a fabric store. Women use that to cut out a pattern to make a dress over and over and over and over again. It's called mylar. They make it in different thicknesses. Just cut that sucker out like that right there, where you got about 1/8 inch around the edge of it, curve the end of it, and play with that. Jam it down in a fitting like this. It's got a 1/2-inch hole on one end and it's bigger on the other. Jam it down in there, play with it. Didn't work, make you another one. Jam it down in there, play with it. That's how I started making coyote calls, and I sold a lot of them. I'd put something else on the end of it, you know, cow horn, something like that, and then they started shipping them overseas and they got expensive and I quit doing it. But if you want to make you a cheap howler, you can also squall with it and everything else. That's the way to do it. Y'all got any questions? Put them in the comments below. I hope I helped somebody. Thanks for coming to Al's Outdoors, and always share your fire.